Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Drop-In Morning Show, where the Teach Better team is live every single morning, Monday through Friday. And we are so thrilled to be here on Tuesday, February 15th. We have a lot planned for you, including good news stories, holidays. Obviously, we have a theme this week we're going to continue. We also have a new face, a new guest in the Teach Better family that I'm so excited for you to meet. And of course, we're going to continue the celebrations of all the things going on this week. We do hope they had a wonderful Valentine's Day. And as you fill up your coffee, it's going to be a great Tuesday, too. We'll see you here in just a second. Good morning, everyone. We are thrilled that you are here. Happy Tuesday. Henry, I'm so thrilled that you're live with us this morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good morning. It's great to be here. Excited to be with you all on this Tuesday morning.
It's always good to be waking up bright and early, getting your day started. I love it. Did you do anything special for Super Bowl weekend, Valentine's Day yesterday? It just seemed to be never-ending celebrations.
There was a lot going on the last couple of days. Yeah, we are skiers. So we were up in Vermont over the weekend. I'm a snowboarder. My daughter and wife are skiers, so there's always that little competition in the family. But we made it home for the Super Bowl, which was good. And then yesterday being Valentine's Day, now that my daughter is 11, the expectations for Valentine is very high. So, we had to process what Valentine's Day was like at school, which is certainly an experience as a high school person to hear that middle school age talk about Valentine's Day was certainly a lot. And then, sharing some gifts, some chocolate and some flowers. Last night was really fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. See, it's always fun to have a little bit of that celebration here on the Daily Drop-In. We celebrate random, ridiculous holidays every single day, but sometimes when those more traditional or Hallmark holidays are in the air, it's always good to have a little bit of extra celebration. It's super, super fun. Henry, for people that may not be connected to you, I know it's bright and early this morning. People are just waking up, starting to say their good morning messages in the comments and sharing the feed so that their friends and family can catch the Daily Drop-In Morning Show as well. But if they're not connected to you, who are you? What do you do in education?
Sure. So I am principal at Newton North High School in Newton, Massachusetts. We are a comprehensive high school, meaning in really the truest sense. We have career tech ed as a core part of our school, and also have students included in so many different areas and extracurricular activities. So we're 2,200 students, so we're quite big. We're proud of our diversity, and we have a lot going on. We have 100 plus clubs and organizations. We have put on 12 plays a year, something like 10 musical performances. I mean, something is happening all the time. We have just as many kids in theater, about 500, as we do in athletics. So I literally could be at school 24 hours a day and feel like there's stuff to do. But at the same time, because we're a large community, we're dealing with a lot of social issues, and that's really, I feel like we really thrived as helping students to engage in problem solving, taking on real world challenges, developing their skills of advocacy, and how to move their causes forward. And then how do we honor students for the work that they're doing in the classroom and outside the classroom? So that's been really exciting work that I'm proud about. We've just actually created a new SEAL program for students to get on their transcript to help honor sort of the work that they're doing outside the classroom. So yeah, that's a little bit of who we are. I also work with school districts around around anti-racism and social justice leadership, and how to foster a culture that's more supportive of including all students.
Well, I have a lot of follow-up questions for you because you have such a fun experience that you get to go to every single day, not only with your support of educators and leadership teams, but also obviously in supporting students. But holy moly, I first want to say good morning to everyone here. We are so thrilled that you're tuning into Daily Drop-In. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget, if you are live with us as we are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn, feel free to comment. We'd love to have you share your questions, share your thoughts on what's being discussed. This really is an open conversation. We appreciate you being here. And even if you're catching this after the fact on one of those platforms, or even as an episode of Teach Better Talk podcast, we are so thrilled that you're here as well. And we appreciate you tuning in, even if it's hours and hours later. You know, Henry, as you were going through the work that you're doing, one of the questions initially I wanted to ask you is how you got into supporting high school. I know that high school is such an incredible age to not only be a teacher in, but a leader in, and everything in between. As a middle school person myself, high school was always something that I enjoyed. I will say they're still a little too tall for me. But how did you get into supporting high school?
So really quickly, is that my favorite part of our favorite story of showing the difference between middle school and high school was The Wire, the TV show The Wire. So they do a great job of showing the middle school students being shorter. You're right, and also a little less set in their ways as high school students. And high school students being very firm in what they believe, and so there's some pretty great sections in the education. I think that's season 3 of The Wire. But anyways, I've always been a high school person. So I knew when I was a sophomore in high school that I wanted to teach history at the high school level. I was really inspired by my teachers, and I, as a person of color who grew up in a overwhelmingly or majority white community, I really wanted to. I was really passionate about social justice and supporting a school that is diverse. And so high school was really I loved the content, I loved the curriculum. And so 22 years old, right after college, I was teaching 18-year-old honor students who were just about to go into college. And what I love about high school students is that they are really developing their own sense of independence at that point. I love to tell parents now that they're going to spend more time with us than they spend with you. They're really trying to resist the adult attention. It really poses a great challenge. And I think that when we're student-centered, we really can see a lot of great passion and energy, right? Like the drive of an adolescent to solve all of the problems of the world is enormous, right? And their idealism is great. And so how do you help them to support that work? And I also think that I think that there's, because of the number of activities we can offer in large high schools, that's really been a passion of mine as well. So how do we create an environment where there is that kind of school spirit, that energy, right? Where we're going to a game and the gym is packed, or we're going to a theater event and people in the auditorium is packed and people are cheering on their friends. And our rule for how do you start a club is that you just need to be one student and you have an adult who's willing to be your advisor. So from the ping pong club to the variety of gaming clubs and things that I've seen over the last 20 years of different types of what's the in game is just really exciting to see students explore, try new things, and show their passion. So I think that's just some of the things I love about high school kids.
I love it. So many people in the comments are actually completely agreeing with you, loving the
Mhm.
high school age, loving the phase of life they're going through, and obviously continuously saying good morning. We are thrilled that you all are here. Good morning, good morning, Henry. As we dive into this further, I do want to get to some of your passions that you've touched on, but I really want to dig into some of these topics during our brainstorm bank. I will say though, we started a new little tradition at the very beginning of our show. Last week, we had a guest on that shared an app, and this app was focused on, it's called Happy Feed, and where we share our gratitude. And so we actually like at the beginning of the show to be able to do this with our guest. Doesn't need to be anything of pressure, but what we do is we're going to just document, obviously, with guests on our show, and then utilize this not only in future Teach Better events, but specifically the Teach Better conference and everything in between. So this is it. This is how it works. For those of you who may not have downloaded Happy Feed, it's just an app. It's a free app you can download. I actually have a meeting with this team later this week. They seem like wonderful people, just trying to do wonderful things in the world. I add a plus. I click this plus button here, and we just add one thing we're grateful for. If at any time we're struggling to think of something we're grateful for, there are little hints. The hint today is encouraging us to consider our coffee or side, which they're mentioning stars and all these little things here. So as you are thinking through what you are grateful for, what you got for us? What can we type in here?
Wow. So that prompt just changed my thinking process. I would say that we had a question the other day about what's your favorite activity in your morning commute, and I would say that one of the things that I love to do is I get to drive by the beach on my morning commute. So that is something I'm definitely grateful for. Is whether it's my drive into work, where I get to see sometimes the sun rise over the ocean, or my commute home, when after dealing with a lot of traffic and a long commute, I get to turn onto the beach and just take a look at it.
I love it. What a great one. We have that documented and stored, and we're excited to be able to look back at that fondly as we continue utilizing this app and also celebrate with our Teach Better community. We are going to transition here into Brainstorm Bank. It is Tuesday. So as many of you know, we do Brainstorm Bank first, and then we'll get into our good news at the end of the show. We'll be right back. Good morning, everyone. We are so thrilled that we are continuing our show this morning, Daily Drop-In Morning Show with Brainstorm Bank. Henry, I know that you already know this, but this is an intentional segment that we have every single morning where we are able to celebrate not only other people in our community, but celebrate the opportunity we have as a network to brainstorm. There is nothing that we are dealing with in education that we need to deal with alone. And so while Henry and I absolutely don't promise that we will have the perfect right solution for you, we would love to be a part of the brainstorming that you might be doing currently on a lesson plan or an instructional strategy or a student behavior or an interaction with a colleague. Whatever it is, feel free to post it in the comments at any time. We'd love to be here to support you. Henry, you are getting a lot of love in the comments talking about how nice it must be on your morning commute to drive by a beach. And I do have to say, I am very, very envious. So as you kind of take that in during your next drive to school, just know there are a lot of Teach Better family members a little jealous and wishing they were there.
I have to say I love where I live, so that is so I appreciate that. I try to send out some photos on my Facebook and Instagram once in a while to help bring the community into to my fortunate short aspect of my commute.
Oh, no, we appreciate it. That's a great thing. I know everyone's going to be already following you on social media if they're not already, but especially with the promise of a beach photo. Done. I love it. Henry, our theme this week, and everybody knows we have our theme every single week, and it changes. It just rotates. And the concept that we really believe in is, let's have a theme. Let's get into it just a little bit. And then as people choose to continue to explore and connect with people on the show, it's always wonderful to be able to dive into topics that we know are really good for not only us to be educated on, but also to better serve our students and our community. The theme this week is about fostering a safe environment, and a safe environment may include the physical environment. It could include the culture, the emotional environment as well. Give me a little insight when I say fostering a safe environment as a leader currently in the world right now, obviously at a high school level, but also with the topics that you are really passionate about. I know you have a lot of drive to support educators in a safe environment. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
So the first thing that comes to mind is the importance of affinity spaces, and I think that when we work at in in any way that you want to interpret diverse school community, how do you make sure that whether it's students or staff who represent um, unique or traditionally marginalized communities, whether they are a smaller portion of your school or that they are part of a group that historically has been marginalized nationally, how do you make sure that they have a place in your school to recharge? And what I hear from whether it's educators of color, members of the LGBTQ community, um, people with disabilities, whether they're adults or students, that it is really challenging to be in um, a school environment when people don't see you, when people don't feel like you are, or people don't. Where you don't feel like you are a part of the community. And so, I think as a leader, how do you support whether it is a room or whether it's an organization, whether it is supporting professional development work? That's something that's how we support our faculty of color, is that we support them to take a couple days off so that they can do some work in the building together. And how do you allow those people to step away and recharge? Because I think it's a reminder of how stressful it can be when you don't feel like you're seen, right? When you don't feel like you're connected, especially those who are telling you that they're not connected. So when I started at Newton North, 24% of our Black students said that they did not have an adult or or they 24%, only 24% felt they had an adult or a classmate that they felt connected to, right? So we clearly had a lot of work to do. So how do we make sure that there's there's a lot to do around that data point, but how do we make sure that students have a place to recharge? And I would say that our Black culture, Black Leadership Advisory Council is now has 100 plus students, very engaged, very empowered, which I think allows students to thrive and recognize that their school loves them. So I think I'd say affinity spaces are definitely a place to lean into. And again, it really can be any way that whether you're not as diverse of a school or you're a small school, thinking about how do you make sure that particular subgroups of students and faculty, staff feel like they have an affinity space to recharge.
I love this term affinity space. If that's a new term for somebody in our community, would you be able to give some background? Where did that come from? If they were to use that in a sentence or use that when discussing this topic further, how can they be educated on that?
Yeah, and I'll say straight out is that there's, in our current environment, there's been a lot of controversy around the term affinity space, as if we're trying to force segregated spaces for students, and that's not what I'm referring to. Nor do I think that's what affinity spaces are. What affinity spaces are is really a place for a community to come together and to celebrate their joy and their love for each other, to see that to allow an individual to see that they're not alone in this journey of going through school, which is as much as we can make school fun, school is hard, right? And how do we make sure that you have a place to be together? So I would say that what an affinity space looks like is it could be a club, whether it is your Gender Sexuality Alliance club, or whether it is a Best Buddies club, or it is Black Student Union, Asian Culture Club, other types of groups for different racial ethnic groups of students. And again, it's really for people who either tend to be marginalized in your school or historically are marginalized as a society, right? So it's not like the straight student organization, right? Like that's not an affinity space. It's really about those who traditionally can be marginalized in your school, and it's a place for them to recharge.
Thank you for defining it. I knew that would be a helpful little deep dive there. So I really appreciate that. Obviously, this is a topic that you're not only passionate about, but something that you're able to support quite frequently. So tell me a little bit about the work you're doing outside of your principal responsibilities, outside of all of these pieces that we've been able to discuss here, and how you really are supporting educators even beyond the community that you're serving at the high school level.
Yeah, so it's been a great passion to be able to speak about the work that we're doing in our school, and that's given me some opportunities to work with some other schools around how to foster a culture around that's focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, how to support schools that are they use an anti-racist lens in their work, an equity lens. And I think that in our mission statements, we often have all students mentioned somewhere. But I want to push us that if we're not considering how some students are not feeling connected in our school or are not excelling in our school, then how are we committed to all students? So I've been able to talk about topics such as how to develop policies in your school that are in line with your equity values. How do you talk about issues such as how we grade students, how we assess students, what instruction looks like so that students see themselves in the curriculum. How do you honor the work of students that are outside of a classroom? So how do we create a school environment that empowers students and honors students for that empowerment? I'm thinking about just a quick story of a student who graduated and is now in college, and she came back and she spoke about her experience and felt like it was her classwork that really helped her, in particular in the story, her statistics course, but it was also being a member of her affinity group, being a member of our honors program for Black and Latinx students, and also helping to, when she was one of the organizers for the George Floyd protests that our students organized in June of 2020 or July of 2020, and she came back and talked about being in a statistics class at her large university and feeling that initially, like, do I belong, right? Feeling like, am I an imposter here, and do I really know what I'm doing? Being both a woman and being a woman of color, right? So, which certainly puts additional pressure on students in a STEM class. And what she found herself one day was tutoring two white male students in the course, and really, so not only having the content knowledge, but also reflecting on the power of that moment, right? And realizing that not only does she belong, but she's excelling, right? And she talked about not only her coursework, but also the way in which she felt empowered in high school that allowed her to take the risk to support these students, but also to know the moment. And I think that that's where all of us can learn. And so that's where I think a lot of the work I've been doing with schools is to help them to create an environment where they can honor that kind of excellence.
I love that you just went into that topic. People in the comments are eating this up. We are currently streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And no matter what platform you're on, people have opinions on this. That was a perfect segue. Something that I really value about the Daily Drop-In Morning Show is that we're able to really have these conversations. We're able to be, able to highlight these stories, highlight students doing incredible work, but then also elevate the people that are on the show and ensure that their mission to support others is, reaching a wider audience. But another element that I really am passionate about is wanting to be able to give educators, regardless of where they're tuning in from, whether it be weeks and weeks later or even currently in the moment as they head into their drive for work, some actionable steps that they can take. We have everything in our community from educators that are in their first year teaching, they're classroom teachers, they're just getting started in this field, to educators that are retiring later this year, they're in leadership roles or they serve at a unit office level. If you were to provide a tactical strategy that somebody can choose to explore, whether it be something they explore later today or here in just a few weeks, is there any challenge that we can give our community to be better in this area?
Absolutely. I would say that the overall strategy is to start slow, right? And to make sure that you are engaging this work thoughtfully. The model that I talk about is learn, reflect, act, and assess, because a lot of folks want to dive right into equity work, and they actually sometimes can do more harm, right? And so how do you learn about your role within equity? How do you reflect on how you can then take some steps, make an action, and then assess whether it's working? So I would say a couple of very straightforward things that you could do tomorrow, whether you are a classroom teacher or you're in a school role, and that is, how do students help you to be able to pronounce their names correctly?
Ooh.
And so I would say that as a school, the easiest thing that we did was, in our student information system, we created a column for students to pronounce their names for us, so that whether it is whether I'm in a meeting with us, we have 2,200 students. So if I'm in a meeting with a student I haven't met before, that I can just look in our student information system and see how their name is pronounced, or what their preferred name is, or what their preferred pronouns are. We have those three columns in our student information system. As a teacher, you can do the same thing. You can ask students, you can do it tomorrow, the first day of school. What are your preferred pronouns? How do you pronounce your name? So it's not, so instead of just doing the roll call, or have them spell it out so that you can pronounce it correctly. For students who have who for their life had their names mispronounced, that goes such a long way to just even ask them, right? How do you pronounce their name? It helps to build that connection with students. Again, it helps them to feel seen and heard in their environment.
And I think I love that you are able to provide an action step that you can do at any time. It is February 15th. You may have had these students since August 1st sitting with you in your learning space. It is not too late to take on that challenge. And there's so much good discussion and relationships that you can foster by simply a reminder of the name. So incredibly important. Henry, we have a comment here by one of our community members that people know very well, Mr. Alex Valencic. We are so thrilled you're here this morning. Alex tuning in live with us. He says, how do you learn? How do you learn, reflect, act as a system when everyone is in a different place in learning and reflecting? So I think he's talking about, this continued topic that we're discussing here of kind of like being in a leadership role and leading those around you, even though everybody's in a different starting place.
It's a great question, and when we start talking about race, I think there is probably no more place where people are in different places in that work. So that's a great question. I would say that the number one way to help lead that work in terms of learn, reflect, act, and assess is for you to do it yourself, right? So one of the areas where we start is around racial identity. Where are you in your racial identity? And we have some different models. If you can either tweet me, and I can help you to look at some different models around racial identity. Just going through that process of where do you fall within your racial group in terms of your racial identity? What kind of in your racial identity development? What kind of work have you done in your life? That self-reflection helps you to really kind of do your core work. And the question that we always do in a workshop is, what is it going to take to get you to the next level? Right? What is it going to, where are you at? What is it going to take you to the next level? What are some things that you can do? Well, that self-reflection also leads to a workshop that you can do with your colleagues in a staff meeting, right? To help people to see where they are. The very straightforward, simple question that we ask around racial identity is, what's your earliest memory around race or racism, right? And we give people an opportunity to talk about that. And what we find is that there are some people who have had an experience where their experiences where they're really young. Typically for people of color, that's true. And we've had people where they haven't had an experience until they're much older, high school, college, or as an adult. Typically those people are white. That leads to a really important conversation around racial identity, right? So I think that when you can have conversations and understand where people are at, you also have to create agreements where we're not judging, right? We're helping to engage in this work where whether you are really skeptical of this work or whether you are really passionate about this work, we need to make sure that we're not judging each other. But how do we? But doing your own work and then offering that kind of self-reflection for folks, I think, is a great way to start when everyone's in a different place.
I so appreciate that. That gives us a lot to work with. We absolutely are going to touch on how to stay connected to you, but as many of you have been able to see, if you're tuning into our live stream or even watching this after the fact, your Twitter handle is on the screen. So we're hoping that everybody heads over to go connect with you there. We'll be right back for our good news this morning. Good morning, everyone. Henry, we've been able to dive into a whole slew of conversations, some great tactical takeaways, and a lot of reflection questions. So I really appreciate you being with us this morning live, diving into some of this good discussion. People are really responding to it, and I can only imagine this will continue as people are able to tune into the show throughout the day and throughout the week. One element of our Tuesday show is that we'd really love to be able to bring a good news story and some holidays to our community as we kind of wrap up our discussion. So are you good with celebrating a few things with us this morning?
Let's celebrate. Absolutely.
Let's celebrate. I love it. There are a lot of holidays today that I feel like might be interesting to bring to students, one of which has to do with SpongeBob. Have you seen the show SpongeBob before?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Well, for many of you who are a fan of Squidward, it is Squidward Day. But to confirm, it is Annoy Squidward Day. So if you are thinking about the show and that funny character, that might be something to discuss with your students today. It's also a Lantern Festival Day, which is an opportunity to look at incredible lanterns that I know many of you have seen kind of release into the sky as a beautiful tradition. So we'll be celebrating that today. It is also National Gumdrop Day. Are you a gumdrop fan?
Gumdrop. I would say that I used to be a gumdrop fan. Wow, I have not had a gumdrop in a long time, but yes.
I thought the same thing. I actually don't know the last time I've been handed a gumdrop. I don't even think you get handed a gumdrop. It comes in a little package, I assume, or it's out on a table in a container of some sort where there are gumdrops. But definitely a day to maybe go hunt down a gumdrop today.
Love it.
How do you feel about butterscotch? Is that a something that you enjoy eating as well?
So I was, for my early years teaching, I was a butterscotch aficionado. So I had the Werther's Originals versus the yellow wrapper ones. I would do taste tests of which one do I prefer. But yes, I was a big butterscotch person.
Well, Henry, today is your day because today is World I Want Butterscotch Day. So we're not just saying it is Butterscotch Day, but this is specifically I Want Butterscotch Day. So I think this day was made for you.
Now that's community action right there. I love it.
I love it. I love it. It is also, as many of you know, a lot of other holidays. We got 30 holidays today, and they're all different, levels of excitement. I will say something interesting. It is World Hippo Day. And for those of you who are looking for hippo fun facts, I looked up a few yesterday and I just couldn't believe. Did you know that hippos can't swim?
What?
Yes,
I'm
I know.
surprised by
I
that.
looked it up. I looked up fun facts of hippos, and I'm telling you, I'm pulling it up right now so you believe me. And one of the fun facts I found is that hippos cannot swim. They're actually, when they're in the water, they're like trotting at the bottom, but they're not considered swimmers at all. And I was like, well, I've seen hippos in water, but they are saying that if you ever see a hippo in water, they are balancing on their tippy toes or they have sunk all the way to the bottom. They actually don't swim by staying at the top of the water, which I had never thought of. So, fun fact of the day on World Hippo Day, hippos can't swim.
I guess that goes to show that you can still love water even when you can't swim.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. So, for
Yeah.
those of you who are not swimmers in our community, you can be just like a hippo and still enjoy water. Oh my gosh, what if that would be the worst takeaway of Daily Drop-In. What'd you learn on Daily Drop-In today with Rae and Henry? I learned that I can be a hippo.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure that that's a comparison that you ever want to say about yourself. I want to be just like a hippo.
I mean, they are powerful creatures. I think they're quite cute. I think that there are attributes and characteristics that we might want to be like a hippo. I
Okay,
mean,
all right.
this is
I'm
the
open
day
to
of
that.
embracing hippos.
I'm open to that.
I like it. So fun. For this morning, we also have a good news story. I did grab just a really sweet love story just outside of England. I know that we are all celebrating the day after Valentine's Day, but I just truly believe there's not enough love in the world. So being able to extend this holiday just a little bit more to share our appreciation and love for others is always something I enjoy. This is just a cute little story that I would love to be able to encourage you all as to utilize as a fun fact when fostering relationships with friends and colleagues, or to even to bring to your students. There is a little town in Europe that is called Lovers. It's called Lovers, and on Valentine's Day they send cards through this community. So as you are sending cards to your loved ones on Valentine's Day, it is stamped with the Lover City community stamp. It is outside of England, and it's very, very popular to be sending postcards through there on February 14th. And while it is a very, very small community, the post office actually only opens on February 14th every single year. So they can put that little stamp of love on the postcards and mail that comes through. They discuss that they get over and they stamp over 8,000 cards so that it can officially say on their postage, sent from Lover. And from this little town in England. What I really enjoy is that there are so many different love stories of couples that have chosen to move there. One specifically is a 71-year-old woman and the 72-year-old man that, as they fell in love, decided to move to Lover so they could have just more love in their life. It says, we've been helping with this community for years, and we couldn't imagine leaving. And they kind of get into some of the fun traditions that they're having over in that little community. So spreading a little bit of love on this Tuesday morning to be able to share in some cute little traditions that exist in the world. I love that.
Sounds like that place needs like the Cupid as their mascot or something, right? Their high
I
school
had to tell
mascot.
you all the photos was Cupid and hearts everywhere. I can only imagine you're kind of like walking into almost like an abundance of decorations. Yes. So
Just
fun.
hopefully lots of chocolate, and then what are those little heart candies? Absolutely, that should
Oh
be like
yeah.
right on everyone's doorstep, I think.
Absolutely. I can only imagine that, most of those communities you assume like have a gas station, maybe a diner. I think this community
Mm,
should only have like a chocolate factory, right? Like nothing else, just pure candy. I think that'd be a great opportunity.
100%, 100%. I am there.
Yes, I love it. For those of you who are just tuning in, we are really appreciative that you are here. For those of you who've been tuning in this entire time, thank you for being a part of Daily Drop-In. Henry, I do want to make sure that we get you to share how people can stay connected, because we know that every member of our Daily Drop-In community is family, and we want to make sure that everybody connects with one another. So how can people stay connected, especially if they have follow-up questions from this morning's show?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I have so if people go to henryjturner.com, you really can get all of the the ways you can connect with me on social media. I also have a newsletter that goes out every other week called Lessons on Social Justice Leadership. So you can sign up for it there. On Twitter, I'm at TurnerHJ. It is Turner_HJ for Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and you can see a lot of my content there. We've been putting out a lot of videos, a lot of with a colleague of mine, Kathy Lopes, on anti-racist leadership, and also a lot of posts with some great information as well.
Well, I really appreciate you waking up bright and early and joining the Daily Drop-In. I want to encourage everyone in our network, do not forget to go connect with Henry and continue to evolve in your understanding of this topic and how you can support the people around you and especially our students and our communities. It's an extremely important idea. And I really appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge this morning, Henry. And I know you have a lot more to share that we didn't get to dive into that I'm very excited for people to connect with you with. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. This was really fun. Got to learn a few more holidays, so I really appreciate that. And it's great to make this connection. I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Absolutely. For everyone here, we hope you have an absolutely wonderful Tuesday. It is February 15th. I have a really good feeling about this one, friends. My calendar is full and busy meeting with educators today. And I got to tell you, I think that we're all just going to have a phenomenal Tuesday. I just want to give you a small reminder that we do have a course dropping in the Teach Better Academy tomorrow. So make sure you are keeping your eyes out for that big announcement, especially for those of you who are passionate about supporting diverse learners. And then we, as many of you saw yesterday, just announced information on the Teach Better Conference speaker lineup. So if you have not seen that, make sure to check your email and let us know your thoughts and excitement as you continue to guess the silhouettes for the Teach Better Conference. We will see you all later. Have a wonderful day. And of course, as always, let us know if you need anything.